G'day guys, Aaron here from Melbourne Muscular Therapies. Welcome to another edition of Fix It Yourself. Today we're going to be talking about the ITB, the Iliotibial band. Okay, so if we have a look at this chart here, the ITB is this white fascial band that basically is the continuation of the TFL and the glute max. So it's pretty much one big long tendon spanning pretty much from the hip all the way down the side of the leg and attaching over the knee. Okay, so you could almost call it the continuation of the TFL and glute max tendon over the knee. So really fascinating muscle. It pretty much, because it's a continuation of those muscles, it almost assists with the primary function of those muscles, but it really is like a stabilizer for the leg. It helps with human movement. It connects the hip to the knee, so it is a really important muscle. And if you know our videos, you know we like treating the white stuff because that's the tendon, that's where the stuff can reside and get calcified, and that's where the compressed tissue can build up. And if we look at the ITB, it's just a feeding ground for that tension. Okay, so really interesting muscle. And if you take it back, if you take the ITB off, you can see how it actually pretty much sits right on top of the vastus lateralis, which is the outermost muscle of the quad, and really closely with this biceps femoris, which is the lateral hamstring. So they all kind of sit in the same fascial pocket. So it's really important that we basically try and get these three muscles here to not fuse together. We want to hydrate all these little lines, all these contours. We want to hydrate and make sure those muscles aren't stuck to one another, because if they're adhesive and stuck, they're not going to be able to perform optimally. Okay, so when we're talking about the ITB, because it is such a thick band of tissue, it's hard to actually release it. But what we're doing when we're getting into these points is we're actually reprogramming and redistributing tension throughout the whole lateral line of the body. Okay, there can be some pretty inflamed pain receptors in this area. If you can relate to having a really tight outside of the leg, getting into these spots will actually minimize those painful points and actually maybe make the knee and hip feel a lot better. But yeah, it's not as a release as such as it is a reprogramming. Okay, so the best way to describe that is looking at the lateral line of the body here. So from the base of the skull all the way down to the foot, the ITB plays a big role in this lateral line. So if we're quite bound and taut up in this line from the TFL glute max down to the knee, it means that this line isn't working efficiently. So getting into these points might redistribute the tension across this line more evenly and allow you to have pain-free movement and good optimal movement at that too. Okay, so let's start with some hands-on work. Okay, so I'm just going to come over here then. I'll get in a better light for you. So obviously it attaches, or pretty much it is a continuation of the TFL and the glute max, and it goes the whole way down the leg. Okay, so basically what we're going to start doing is just getting our fingers in and just feeling. We're not doing too much in the way of like getting in too hard. It's more just feeling what we're working with. Okay, so you're digging the fingers in and we're just strumming, hooking into the posterior portion a little bit more. A few really good spots there, and keep going down that line. Yeah, right there, that's a ripper. That's a classic ninja point, that one. So you hook in under the ITB and you pull up into that vastus lateralis, and it's just a money spot. You can feel that going up into the hip, down into the knee. So this is the reprogramming. We're just kind of strumming it, flossing it. We might be able to move our leg back and forward as well. And we're just trying to just hydrate the area, get some blood flow, get things working again. Okay, so we can take it down through there. That's another one of his money spots in there. Hook in under that hammy a little bit more, and then just peel it all the way. Hook up in and peel, okay? Hook up in and peel it all the way. So we're working right down into the knee now too. So picking up all of that really taut tissue and then just strumming it. So once again, this is just getting an idea of where your spots are. So when we get our tools, you know where to go. So on me, right there, that's an absolute ripper. Just digging in, holding, it's pretty painful. Hold there, and then keep playing it, okay? So as I told you, it's an extension of the TFL and the glute max. I'm not going to go into too much detail on those now. Make sure you go to our videos on the hip and the TFL if you want to look a bit more in detail there. But just to reiterate, the TFL starts here,
comes down that front lateral portion of the hip. So you can actually start doing some work into that muscle as well, because the more you release off these muscles that lead into the ITB, the less tension there's going to be actually in the ITB itself. So it just means you might be able to get in a little bit deeper into the actual ITB. Okay, so you're working into those points of the TFL. There's some really good ones there. And for the glute max, you can just do some palpation through the sacrum here where it attaches. Okay, so just work through these points and free them up there. Okay, so anyway, back to the ITB. What we're going to do to start with is work into our basketball. Okay, so we're going to start really up high, pretty close to where they attach onto the glute max and the TFL. So right into the meaty part, and then we're just going to slowly make our way down, just ever so slightly edging down, and every time we hit a really juicy bit like there, we're just going to pin and hold. Okay, so we wait for that to redisperse. I can feel that going down to the outside of my knee, and yeah, it's just a really good point. People that walk and haven't got very good control of their pelvis or their hips, and they notice a big lateral shift of the hips every time they walk, kind of like what you see models doing on the runway, which is not an optimal way of walking. That's when the ITBs get really tight, because as those hips sway, instead of loading the joint and loading the muscles properly, the ITB takes all that force, okay? And that's what actually has to contract to stop that shift of the pelvis, all right? So if you haven't got very good biomechanics of the pelvis when you're walking or running, you might be suffering from a lot of tension or unnecessary tension in the ITB, okay? So as well as doing these releases to actually get rid of the pain, you might want to actually address what's happening in your biomechanics to make sure that that force is being absorbed more evenly throughout the body and the kinetic chains. So yeah, I've just really found a good bit there. Might be able to come around into the front a little bit more. Oh, so that's going to the inside of the knee. Oh, getting some good shakes there too. Yeah, so the basketball, you don't need too much pressure through these areas. So the basketball is probably going to be suffice for a lot of you out there. I'm just going to keep making my way down. Oh yeah, it's really good. So you remember how the ITB sits on top of the quad? So you're pretty much going straight through the ITB, straight onto the quad, right through down to the femur. Okay, so you're just compressing all that tissue, and this is how we're reprogramming, redistributing, and just changing the state of this tissue. So just try it for yourself. It feels fantastic. It's hard when you're going through it. You need to scale it and make sure you're only doing what you're willing to go through, but test it for yourself. Do the release, stand up, see how you are over the next few days and see if you feel better. Do some training in the gym, go for a run, see if you feel better. There's a lot of conjecture on in our kind of industry about doing these kind of techniques and releases to the ITB, if they work, if they don't, but just got to experience it for yourself. Test things for yourself. That's the best way. Just because it's in a peer-reviewed study doesn't make it real. Doesn't make it, not effective. Okay, so we've done our ball work. Let's get our old mate here, cement plug. We're getting a bit more serious now, guys. So you've done your work in terms of figuring out where your stuff is. Let's get some really thorough work done here. So I'm starting right up at the top of the leg there. So you'll be able to feel that hip bone out to the side. ITB pretty much comes straight down from there. So I'm working, I can flick over something there. I'm just working straight up into that bone. It feels like it's right up on the bone. And now we're just gonna slowly peel our way down. This is doing heavier work than the basketball was, but it's good. It's really good. Far out. Oh, there's lots there. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Oh. So once again, just to reiterate, guys, you're doing your ITB work. If you can relate to stiffness here, obviously repeat these techniques, but also go and look at our TFL video and our hip video for the glutes, because you'll probably want to do some of those techniques as well and see if you have an effect on the ITB too. So we're slowly making our way down. You can even go slower than this at home, but I'm just, for the sake of the video, speeding up a bit. When I get closer to the knee, I feel like that's easing off a bit, not as bad. If I get close to the knee there, it ramps up a little bit. But for me personally, I reckon up in here was where it was. Yeah, that's good stuff. Okay. I'll back it off there for myself there, okay? But yeah, you get the point. Do these releases for half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it takes. Make sure you scale it though. So if the basketball's enough for you, maybe the hands-on stuff's enough for you at this stage, just go there. You're not going to need too many sharp tools for these areas. You kind of want a more broad release. I guess if you wanted to get a little bit more pinpoint, you could actually use a ball. And the good thing about the ball is you can actually put more pressure on using your own body weight like that if you just want to pin one spot, okay? So that's another little technique for you there, but personally I feel like the broad stuff does a really good job. So yeah, hope this goes well for you guys. Comment with your progress, and yeah, stay tuned for more videos coming up.